Salutations, respected viewers. In this video, I'm going to debate whether the motion this House believes that the fashion industry is immoral. So, imagining that I've been counted in by the chair, sorry, introduced by the chair. And by the way, because of the way the camera is, I won't be able to pivot it when I change sides, so I'll just have to signal it with this. But anyway, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, the fashion industry is indeed deeply immoral for the following reasons. First of all, it deliberately damages our health. Second of all, it purposefully wastes our money. Third of all, it's exploitative of the people who work in it. And fourth of all, it objectifies women, thereby deepening sexist attitudes. I shall go through those one by one in greater detail. So first of all, body image. People are always looking at these fashion magazines, seeing things on television and so on. The fashion industry promotes an unhealthy lifestyle of starving oneself. It's not just bad for people's mental health, also for their physical health, also their mental health. These size zero models, heroin chic, which they've promoted. No wonder a lot of models turn to drugs and so on. So it makes ordinary people, particularly women, feel worthless. As the saying goes, don't read beauty magazines, they'll make you feel ugly. It promotes anorexia as an ideal, so it is revolting. So fully grown women who are supposed to have the proportions of a prepubescent child. It preys on vulnerable people, and not just those who work in it, that ordinary people who are not very intelligent, who have low self-esteem, they begin to feel worse, they beat themselves up, that they think that they're ugly and so on. And they are tempted, they're told, happiness is an expensive product. Buy this item and all your problems will be solved. But as soon as you buy that one, it's out of fashion and you're obliged to purchase the next. Naomi Klein described this vividly in her memoir, No Logo, how as an adolescent in Canada, she became utterly fixated with fashion labels and was spending like crazy on credit cards for stealing just to have the latest item, thinking that she would find validation simply through owning things, and possessions do not make you happy if you're remotely sane. So despite what the adage says, the camera does lie, and these photo shoots with lighting and so on, all sorts of makeup, they make models appear as they are not. And then things are rather heavily airbrushed, legs are deliberately stretched to give these models preternatural proportions, and then average people feel like they're hideous by comparison because they can't match up to this completely unrealistic fantasy image which is pushed at them as the ideal to which they must conform. They're contrasting themselves against something which is totally out of this world. So what the fashion industry does is use people's low self-esteem against them. It preys on people's status anxiety, and the models there, they are already thin, only thin and tall people are allowed into it. They're again under enormous pressure to lose weight. No wonder they go cuckoo. Often they're taking cocaine to lose weight. They're talking about heroin chic, so really abusing themselves terribly, and their sell-by date is very young. The shelf life of their age of 25. So it makes women feel they're not allowed to turn 25. Somehow they're invisible or they're just worthless. It makes them feel ugly. It devalues them. It makes them only a physical image. Makes them fixated with appearance and not reality. No wonder there's such falsity and cattiness in this sector. So it's absurd and it's dangerous. It literally kills people. And often some people go really the other way, go completely obese. These are preposterous, these fashion shows, strutting up and down on the catwalk in these completely ludicrous outfits no one could actually wear, haute couture. And it's the worst kind of conspicuous consumption, people being so two-faced, showing off. And I've met people who work in the fashion industry, so outside they're all smiles and coquetting with whoever it is, but really they're really uptight, viciously competitive, ruthless, and detestable. So that's what it's all about. It's all about image and not about reality, about actually being decent and completely judging people by what they possess, fetishizing items, products, wealth, being snooty, being snobbish, sneering at people because they can't afford expensive things, squandering your money on things you don't need. And unfortunately, people who are not very intelligent are often hoodwinked by that. They fall for that, and they just go into buying these items, thinking that makes them better, that makes them worthwhile owning something, not what you do, not what you are, not how you treat people. It is emetic. We don't want that at all. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes situation. Someone needs to say, this is ridiculous. Okay, you don't look good at all. You look crazy wearing that. The designing clothes which are never supposed to be worn. So let me go over that again, the reasons why the fashion industry is grossly immoral and must be forced to put its house in order. It's bad for people's mental and physical health. It makes people waste their money because it uses psychological warfare against the consumer. It's exploitative of the models who work in this sector, many of whom are children. And third of all, it perpetuates the patriarchy and viciously misogynistic attitudes. And that is why I plead with the House to support this very necessary motion. Right, now I am the opposition. So, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you why this motion must be voted down. Because the fashion industry is not immoral, it is not exploitative, it does not damage our health. In fact, it promotes it, and is most certainly not sexist. So I shall go through those reasons before, and I'm grateful to the honourable member on the other side of the House for producing such a bravurous speech, but so peppered with lacunae, and I can now expose the flaws in his deeply illogical oration. We all like fashion, we all wear clothes. Some people are more enthusiastic about it than others. Like that's true of any area of life. Some people are more zealous about golf and some people are more zealous about reading or something. But you have your style, you have clothes you like, you don't like. If you're a man, you probably wouldn't wear a tutu. Most women don't like to wear dungarees, a few do. Not saying they're right or wrong, but you make style choices. Some people don't spend a great deal of time or money on this. Some people pay a great deal of attention to it. And that's all part of the wonderful diversity of the world. And what the fashion industry does is to offer us choice, ways to express our individuality through clothes. What would the opposite side of the House have? Us all wearing a uniform, like some sort of totalitarian state, taking away all decisions for us? Well, if we're going to have choice, there must be a variety of garments to choose from. And there's a fabulous array of clothing in the shop at all price levels. So it brings happiness to us. It doesn't have to bring discontent. If you're unhappy with the fashion industry, well, that's your fault. Make your own clothes at home. You're free to do so. And nobody's forced to purchase clothes, particularly expensive ones. Anyway, so clothes not only cheer us up, well, they are needed. We're going to go around in the nude, especially in this climate. Being naked is just not an option. Fashion is fun, can be glamorous, and fashion exists in everything, even the plainest clothes. That in itself is a choice to dress in a rather humble, understated way, rather than a garish and elegant way. Some people are more sophisticated, some people are more understated, plain, almost sterile in their taste. You can be puritanical as well. That's counter-signalling. Conspicuous modesty is a contradiction in terms. You can dress like a monk or a nun, nothing wrong with that. But that's also saying, look at me, I'm humble. It's an oxymoron. So we need clothes, as I pointed out. In winter and summer, we need different sorts of clothes according to the temperature, or indeed we need waterproof clothes. And the fashion industry has to provide it. And you want to take the colour and the joy out of life by saying that we shouldn't have stylish, different, interesting clothes with different colours, textures, shapes and so on, made from all sorts of fabrics and materials with different patterns. And it's fabulous that we can have different light motifs and express our personality through different clothes. There are second-hand clothes shops you can do. There's a thing called swishing, where people meet to just swap clothes so they still get that buzz of a new item of clothing without spending a penny. So it's about elegance, style, individuality, and that's what makes us human. We have clothes. Animals don't. They don't get to pick what they wear. And fashion, that also relates to your hair. As for fashion industry more generally, it's obviously not simply about garments. It's also about skincare, and that dermatologists will have to approve these things. It's good for your health. It's good for your mental health to feel better. And any psychiatrist would tell you one of the symptoms of mental ill health is not caring a fig about your appearance, not wanting to dress decently. Now, I realise there's a spectrum, and being somewhere in the middle is fine. Being a bit more towards glamour is one way, being a little bit towards more being dishevelled is acceptable. If you're at either extreme, Either of those is mentally unhealthy. So I realise that some people have got obsessive compulsive disorder when it comes to appearance, such as Naomi Klein mentioned earlier in her life, who are completely fixated with their appearance and buying scores of items of clothing that they don't need, things which are way outside their price range, and a woman who has to do her makeup a dozen times a day, that's different. That is a personality disorder, or it's a psychiatric issue. It's not to do with the fashion industry. And I grant you, at the far end of the fashion industry, there is some silly behaviour, and there are some things which are overpriced, but if you're a billionaire, you might want to buy those. And it's good that we have options. It would be bland if all our clothes were banal, as the proposition would have. So this is the same with every industry. At the extreme end of things, yes, there is some foolish behaviour. Some things are too expensive. But there's often the media to blame for this. So some actresses, consumers are to blame. They are not obliged to purchase things. People have a choice. And really what we're offering you is choice and liberty, which the other side would take away for you. So for the reasons that I've previously outlined, you should vote against this dreadful motion.